Anyway, welcome, everybody. This is the Literary Cypher, January 2022. It's the first one for the year, and I am extremely excited because last year was 2021. So I'm just really excited for new beginnings. I'm excited for new lineups of readers and to hear what you all got for us tonight. I'm not going to do the little spiel in between. We're just going to go one reader right after the other one. If you want to say something about the pieces you're going to read, something about yourself, that's great. And then afterwards, if there's some time, if you guys want to stay on, we can stay on and chat for a few. I'll leave the meeting open. And for those that need to log off, that's absolutely fine. We'll just see you next go round. Does everybody have their drink? I've got my tea tonight because I've been feeling a little under the weather. So I'm always into the herbal tea to go ahead and get me whole again. Okay. All right. So we're going to reverse the first two. So we're going to start with Sufiya. If everyone will please mute their mic so we can be respectful of the readers, just so we can give them their space and their time. Okay. And I'm going to fall on back and let Sufiya Abdur-Rahman do her thing. And then after that, Miss Sarah, if you want to jump in, and then we'll go to Krystal. Okay. Just let me, is that good? Okay. You're good. Okay. All right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sufiya Abdur-Rahman. Thank you so much, LP, for inviting me, for organizing this. It's been a weird COVID season. Most of my readings I've been doing online, so this is right up my alley. I'm in my room. But my book, Heir to the Crescent Moon, came out in November. It's a memoir. And it's about being a second generation African-American Muslim and my journey to discover more about what that meant and what it meant to my parents. So I'm going to read from a chapter that I haven't read out loud before, as I said on Facebook, because I just want to try something different. And I'm going to probably skip around just a little bit to make sure that I get into those few minutes that I have. So just like 3 pages or so that I'm going to read. And so just again, background, this is from my childhood. Later in the book, it goes back into history when my parents converted to Islam in the early 1970s in New York City. This chapter is called Snapping. My sister loved snapping on people. As a 16-year-old who could flip from hilarity to emotional breakdown nearly instantaneously, Aaliyah had a talent for delivering an insult with such novelty, humor, and insight that she could make bystanders, herself, and the subject of the diss all burst into uncontrollable laughter. One afternoon when I was 11 and we were in our room, she must have started snapping on me because I had a good comeback. Oh yeah? That's why you have no rhythm, I told her, then chuckled my way through an impression of her bouncing and bobbing awkwardly on our hardwood floor, pretending to just miss the imaginary beat I'd been trying to catch with a clap. I hardly exaggerated. My sister couldn't dance or clap on beat, despite the stereotype that said all Black people can. Ha ha, she snickered at me, contorting her button nose, ample cheeks, and thinnish lips into a grimace. Sitting on her twin bed, neatly made with a reversible blue comforter, directly across the room from mine, identical, except not as neat, she nodded her head and flashed a furtive smirk that said she thought she had something better. That's why you're an illegitimate child. I laughed at first because her snap was funny. How silly to be an illegitimate child of parents who had an elaborate wedding and lived as husband and wife for 17 years, I thought. I kept laughing, longer than I wanted to though, because it was also true. Aaliyah had told me so when she found out, probably after eavesdropping on our mother on the phone, a favorite hobby of ours. Sometimes when the phone rang and it was either daily, weekly, or what's what my sister called my mother's friends, or Auntie Khadijah, who we didn't call monthly because that's what my sister had named her menstrual cycle, Aaliyah would send me to hand Umi the phone in her room. Then we lurk in the hallway, close enough to hear Umi's responses and sneak details about these women's latest dramas. Other times, when Umi picked up from another line, Aaliyah or I would hold a hand over our receiver, then crane our heads together like lovebirds, lifting the phone until it touched both of our ears. We listened in like this for a few moments before our mother would catch on, whisper or "hold on, sis," and yell to us, "hang up the phone." I was sure that it was during one of these listening sessions that Aaliyah heard my mother reveal that somehow, I didn't understand how, we were born out of wedlock. Even though I trusted my sister, I needed to hear this news directly from the source. It was too important, meant too much to accept secondhand. While I was riding in her car one day, I asked my mother to explain. I went down to the courthouse to file divorce papers against your father, and the court told me I couldn't because your father and I were never legally married in the first place, she told me, with slight exasperation at having to admit the truth to her child, a product of this marriage. Well, why not? I asked, confused. That answer is not so simple. You know that your father and I got married. Well, we had a wedding, an Islamic wedding, so we're married under Islam. But we never went to City Hall to get a marriage license. I asked your father about it, but he always said, "What do we need to do that for?" She said in her deep, mocking Abi voice. And we never did it. After a while, I stopped asking. I figured that, like most states, New York had common law marriages, which is when a couple is living together like husband and wife for a period of time, a number of years. Common law marriage kicks in to recognize them as husband and wife, even though they didn't go through the formal ceremony, you know. I answered, trying to follow along with the technicalities. But the court told me that in New York State, that practice is not allowed. Ain't that a blip? Imagine how embarrassed I was. Here I want to divorce this man and I can't even do it because we were never married in the first damn place. Excuse me, Fia, Umi said, pardoning her language. She reached over to place a hand on my arm. You just make sure that you don't accept no for an answer. If you know the right thing to do, don't let somebody tell you no, they're not going to do it. You keep on until they do the right thing. With that, I knew that technically my siblings and I were all illegitimate, just like Aaliyah had said, born to a mother out of wedlock. I felt about as far from being the loyal daughter of a once loving couple as I possibly could. I used to search for confirmation that I was. My mother cradles two clunky photo albums like a kitten in her arms as she plods into the living room, heavy on her heels, and sets them on the coffee table, one atop the other, for me. I don't know why you always want to look at these, Umi says, already turning back to her room. Because I like them, I answer as I raise myself on my knees, hovering above the square wooden tabletop while still kneeling on the floor. And then I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit in this chapter to get to looking at the actual pictures. What I want to see, however, is not on a page at all. Stuff between the pages of this album are the contact sheets of my parents' wedding photos. Time after time, I open the album to where the stack is tucked in and stop. I take the pile out, pick the pages up. There are 3 of them. Each is black and white with row after row of 1 square inch frames, proofs of some photographer's negatives from that day. They are the only pictures my parents ever show me of their wedding. They're the only pictures of their wedding my parents have ever had. The most I can do to witness the start of my parents' marriage is peruse those proofs. At first, I can't make out many details of the ceremony at all. They're too small. Still, I look, trying to detect, initially, some signs of affection between bride and groom, of happiness, of joy, something to prove and illustrate to myself that my parents had at one time, before I was born probably, loved one another. Then later, when I know their union is ending, I scan for clues about what could have gone wrong with their nuptials, during their marriage, in their lives that would lead to them splitting up. I search for something, anything, amiss. I lean in close to each matte finished sheet to see nothing out of the ordinary. I see my mother, young and innocent, in a light sari and long khimar. I see my father, refined and trim, in dark Nehru collared suit and embroidered kufi. I even recognize both sets of my grandparents, who don't often appear at the same time in the same place. Studying the succession of tiny squares, I notice long, rectangular tables covered in freshly pressed cloth and stocked with food galore. I witness a multitude of supporters, their skin black and various shades of gray by my parents' sides. All seems to be in order. Neither the wedding nor the reception suffered a mishap, glitch, or surprise that I can find. Instead, with the best wishes of their families, friends, and Muslim brothers and sisters, here is visual proof that my parents had indeed made a loving commitment to each other in the name of Allah. I close the album, for the moment, satisfied. That's where I'll stop. Thank you.
That was beautiful. I love that book, by the way. Miss Sarah, are you ready, or should we go ahead to Krystal? Miss, I saw you. Let me see.
If you could,
there you go.
Skip me, and I'll be next.
Okay, I saw you doing something. Okay. All right, Krystal.
I'm almost there.
All right.
There.
All right. So maybe after Krystal.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see here.
There she is.
I've been so excited about this. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me. This is like, I just love community and like reading and, you know, being together. So this is really nice. I'm going to read 4 poems from my latest collection. This is Not About Love. It came out last year in April, and I think my publisher is here. Yay, yep. BLF Press is in the chat. Hey. And so these poems just kind of encompass all the varying different types of emotions and relationships and connections and just all the things that we experience. And each type of emotion has its own power and quality. So I'm going to read 4 poems for you. The first one, this is a trio poem, and I'm going to read the second poem in the section. When the white women in the office start to whisper, it's followed by siren shrill laughs that linger, that fill up space so violently the black on my back welts. And the rest of the poem, the other 2 poems are also titled the same, When the White Women in the Office Start to Whisper. This next one, a little homage to the old heads. They always say the coolest stuff. If you scared, say you scared. I like how the old heads talk, loud, boisterous, everything a reference to a time before now. They say, what you know about that right there? Huh? Everything is a riddle. They'll make fun of you, but let you in a little, let you in on the joke, because everything is a joke. It's their way. It's our way, because we are a people of joy and making it through whatever. The laughter keeps you well. Even when it's not all good, we joke. Bravado in our voices. Shit. If you scared, say you scared. But we never do say. The new woman. A new lover is here. She says, how I've prayed for a woman like you. She says, you are my joy. She says, forever. She does not hear me, unzipping my skin at night, opening myself wide and packing my limbs and torso with clumps of wet black dirt. The worms are buried deep. They wrap around the bone, snacking on what soft meat is left. Got to give myself a little for that one. I love that piece. Yes. And I want to do one more because this one is called Ode to Joy, and joy is so important. We experience so many things on the daily, like minutely, and joy. We have to come back to joy if we want to, you know, make it through, especially these times. The pandemic has me all over the place. Ode to Joy. I laugh myself relaxed. Consider mania, but this is no episode. I am present. Boundaries set, surrounded by true nurturing. Friends who have become family. Access to more than before, access to more of myself. I exist wholly for me. Thank you, thank you. So fun.
Thank you for that, Krystal. All right. Miss Sarah, are you ready?
I am. Thank
All
you
right.
so much, everybody, for your patience with my technological challenges.
No
And
worries.
huge thanks to LP and all these other magnificent writers that I get to read with tonight. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. I chose two poems, and it was only when I read them next to each other to do the timing for tonight's reading that I realized that they are companion poems, really. What I want to say before I start is that my family history mirrors the kind of hell that is American history. An early ancestor invaded Virginia in 1622, and that's in the poem, and then enslaved people for the next several hundred years. The first poem is called Dijon Kizzee Loved Anything on Wheels. There's an epigraph. While America is dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, we in Black America are dealing with the 1619 pandemic. Benjamin Crump, attorney for the family of Dijon Kizzee, killed by LA County police deputies, September 23, 2020. Dijon Kizzee loved anything on wheels, bike, go-kart, motorcycle. Family calls him Mama's boy, broken by her passing, says he was kind, working to find his way. Family, neighbors say his name, Dijon, Dijon, Dijon. Sheriff Villanueva says Dijon Kizzee rode his bike on the wrong side of East 110th Street in Westmont, a high crime area, a war zone. So yes, I've resorted to sarcasm this morning, having used up my habitual American words: grief, horror, rage, sorrow. The news tells me more of Dijon Kizzee's death than his life, so my brain, crammed with anger and association, data and damage, asks the wheel for meaning, the cart which made possible the commerce of people stolen from love, warmth, children. Is anything more white American than the wheel, the open road? For Black folks, ears pressed to the ground for the pounding of the paddy rollers. Sheriff lurking, night patrols on ready. But Dijon Kizzee loved anything on wheels, powered himself down that California street, what we call manpower, his legs doing the work of freedom. This I can say. John Browning invades Virginia in 1622, crashes the poem, keeps on invading, keeps on deputizing people we call police to contain Dijon Kizzee and his ancestors, keeps on deputizing deputies to kill for being on the open road without papers, for being on the wrong side of the street. I mean to say, Dijon Kizzee's story is not separate from my story. Dijon Kizzee is not separate from me, though whiteness tells me otherwise, tells me deputies are deputized on my behalf. But I know Langston Hughes got it right. Secure rhymes with manure. Fuck the firmament. Dijon Kizzee ought to be right here, ought to be America. Dijon sailing down the street on any two wheels he chooses, the LA sun singing joy, the wind waving hey as he flies right by. Thank you. And this is a brand new poem, like brand new. New shit. So I am asked what another world looks like. We step outside and small children, sleek from sprinklers, raining the scent of every gorgeous night, sing to us their poems. And the poems sing back the child's long life ahead of cousins who grow side by side, each child a cousin, kin, each neighbor in love with every other neighbor child's poem. And the poem is a ripe pomegranate, intricate and staining with sweet red the fingers, face, and teeth of the child, the vision of the child full of the pomegranate poem. The child is, the poem is play, and the poem is grown-ups telling their growing up stories, not their gunning down stories. And the poem is potluck suppers, aromas of 1,000 treasured cuisines. Where in history is the poem? History is in the poem, and sadness. But the child's poem sings the possible. The child's poem never suffers the belly pressure of hunger, lonesome tummy cry of the body. The child's poem is pleasure, high swings and kicking feet, and always a warm bed, fingers to entwine. The child steps outside, and we listen for her poem. This Latrice poem, this Maria poem, this Li Hua poem, this Joanne poem, this Ruth poem, this Earth poem, this possible poem, this other world poem, this breath, this believing, living poem breath. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Lucky us. Got the new shit. All right, we're gonna move on to Courtney. Kind of got backtracked with the, well, okay, yeah, Courtney, right? Yeah, Courtney's
All right.
next.
Everybody hear me all right?
Yes, yes.
Good, good. Okay. So I'm going to read to you from the beginning of a poem that won a prize last year with Black, not a poem, I'm sorry, it's a story. We've had all this poetry and now I've got poetry all up in my head. So it's a story that won a prize at Black Box Literary Magazine last year. It's called The Bridge, and it's a dual narrative between two sisters. So I'm going to start with the younger sister and then give you a snippet of the older sister. Melanie after dawn on Monday. It stormed last night and all the gravel gushed out the end of our driveway. The bridge just to the left of our property, over the gully for the overflow, is slick with mud. I can hear the creek across the road, running high and fast. My sister's had her driver's license for 2 weeks and she still won't take me to school. I'm in middle school and she's in high school, but whatever. Both schools are in Moff, our county seat, as I'm told in social studies class, though the middle school is further into town, maybe 10 minutes out of her way. Anna can't give me 10 bitty minutes of her time? Nope. Some shitty big sister. Sorry, I mean crappy. Instead, I have to get up at the butt crack of dawn and hike down the hill and wait for the friggin' bus. I'm trying to stop cussing so much, by the way. The bus winds these country roads like it's drunk on bud, and I feel like I might yak by the time I get to where I'm going. An old, busted up 1929 middle school, set to be demolished once the new school is finished. Then she'll have to take me. It'll be on her way and too dang tempting to see me trapped in the new middle school like a rat on a wheel. Tomorrow, Mel's, I promise, she'd said. I have to get to school early today for band. We're practicing the clarinet ensemble. Anna had said ensemble, the French way, probably to make me laugh, but I was not amused. I didn't even crack a smirk, but I did accept her excuse. What choice did I have? I believed her story because Anna is a sucking up, brown-nosing, teacher's petting kind of girl, and that's a damn fact. Oops, I mean dang, and that's a dang fact doesn't quite have the same ring to it, does it? None of the substitute words, crap, but, dang, are really working out for me, to be totally freaking honest. Anyway, Anna's grades are as good as mine are bad because somebody has to make some ruckus in our house. In fact, maybe I won't even go to school today. Maybe I'll just cross this road and walk along the creek until I get to Barber, the next tiny town over. It might take me half the day, but they have a skanky pool hall. There I can sneak sips of beer and hang out and maybe even pop out back for a quick puff. Won't be the first time, though I promised Anna I wouldn't ever again. Then she'll see why I really needed a ride today. She'll feel guilty and I'll feel happy and I won't puke on the stinky, steamy bus ever again. Yeah, my plan might just work. I'm standing here waiting, thinking I should disappear fast into the foggy tree line by the crazy creek, imagining the pool hall when Anna's blue Reliant comes down the road from the wrong direction. She'd gone in the opposite direction of Moth and even Little Barber, the wrong frickin' way. From the right way towards school, another car, a small gray coupe, maybe an Accord or a Civic, but something's wrong with it too. It's on the left side of the road, the wrong side. Anna drives the wrong way on the right side, but her right is wrong just now. I shout and wave my arms like flags at the gray coupe. Inside the coupe, a man drives with his yellow head lolling off to the right, where his entire car should be. He's sleeping. My sight starts to blur, and the left cheek of his pale face is a blotch of red. I look left and right, my head an owl's in the weak morning sun, wise and slow. Suddenly, I snap, too, and swivel my body back to Anna's Reliant, jumping up and down like a freaking mad lady, but Anna does nothing but drive forward. Just honk, Anna, I scream. Just swerve. Anna, can't you see him? Anna drives straight onto the overflows bridge, right into the brown, wet muck. Her eyes focus on the coupe, dead on the coupe, not turning, no hands honking. Oh, Anna, I whisper. Oh, fucking hell, Anna. Anna. Anna before midnight on Sunday. The night before the crash, I call Jim again and again. His phone rings until the machine picks up, and then I hang up because I don't want to bother his family with my whiny voice. Jim said he would probably stop by, but he hasn't yet. I wait all night to hear his car pull up, to hear his tires crunching against the gravel. He drives a '77 Buick Regal at a burnished gold. Jim is like gold to me, but he treats me like shit. Not even like a rock, unless it is petrified shit. I know I should cut him loose, and maybe he is already trying to be the man I know him to be by letting me go in this undefined way. In a way in which he could pop back up again, ask me for the goods and get them, then leave me in his cold bed to play arcade games with his buddies. Or to score some beer and weed and take it out to the woods by the train trestle over the creek. Sometimes he just likes to be alone, and I do like that about him, but I also like to watch the train go by together. I like to kiss his neck just below his ear as the train's wind buffets us against the steep creek bank. He swats me away and pretends he doesn't like his neck kissed, but he does. I know he does, just like I know he likes me, maybe even loves me, even if he doesn't show it. If he doesn't love me, I reason, it is because he is incapable of the kind of simple love I crave. He is too self-satisfied to notice me in a way that can spark a genuine love. So he loves me in the way he can, and I take it all in. The beer, the weed, the sex in the car. Every time I sneak out to see him in the middle of the night, every time a car passes on the road, I play dead in a ditch. I fall down flat so not to be seen by curious neighbors, and I marvel at my quick reflexes, at the way I have been able to deceive my family these 6 months, pretending to go to sleep early like a good girl. I think of Mel's, how openly bad she is, and I don't feel guilty. I feel so close to her, but she can never know. None of them, Mel's or Jim or my parents, will ever know how close to them I feel, lying there in the ditch, lying there in my heart, lying to myself and loving myself. It's like being dead and alive all at once, like being selfish and selfless in the same instance. Thank you. And thank you for having me tonight. It's been such a pleasure so far, and I'm so excited to hear all the other readers.
Wow, thank you, Courtney. Like my heart just stopped. Like, oh no. Like that just really just reeled me in. It was just like, oh, damn. That was amazing. All right. Let's see. Is Sabrina. Did Sabrina make it? She's still not here. Oh, Sabrina. Okay. We're gonna move on. That means, let's see, Jessica. Jessica, you're up.
I am up, but I'm like,
Oh no.
I
Get your
was
tea,
going
girl.
to say, if everyone could if this appears somewhere so we can find it, like I know, Courtney, you said that was in Black Fox. Like there's a link, I would love to have that in the chat to look at
Oh,
later on.
Yes, thank you.
So,
Thank you for looking out, Jessica. I meant to make that. I didn't say that earlier. For everybody, all the readers, please
maybe,
put all of your information in the chat, your social media handles, book links, all of that. Okay.
but
I don't
yeah, because
remember if I
I've
said
got to
that.
read the rest of that story and, and the memoir and
to.
everything too. So,
Got to. All right, there you go.
well, thanks for having me, LP, tonight. I appreciate this series. And so the story I'm going to read tonight is called Under Construction. It appears in the recent issue of Gargoyle magazine, which is published out of Arlington, Virginia, which is where I am and where the story takes place. This story is adapted from a novel that I'm shopping around. All that you need to know is the protagonist is, well, you need to know it's 2002, so it's 20 years ago. So some of the language is like 20 years old. The protagonist is a white woman, and for most of the novel, she's in her early 40s, and in this story, she's in her early 30s, under construction. It was hard to imagine the building ever being whole again, or that anyone or anything ever would be. Even if people someday got to a point where they weren't anticipating another attack, would Melanie always see the Pentagon as destroyed the way it had been months earlier? Looking out the hotel window, she wondered if anyone would actually choose this view on purpose someday. She had stormed out of the house with a few hastily packed essentials. Although she didn't much use the cell phone she had gotten in the wake of the attacks, having it did shift her feeling of being traceable. Even if Todd didn't know where she was going, and certainly at first neither did she, he could try to reach out. In her head rang the reach out and touch someone jingle from her childhood, a relic from a time before even answering machines. Nowadays, most people had a line of communication in their purse or their pocket. At any time, they could try to find you, warn you, give you instructions with words on a screen. As she'd ridden the elevator up to her hotel room, she wondered what the desk clerk thought about a woman checking in with almost no luggage and no reservation on a Friday afternoon. Any other guests, he'd asked? Her no was firm. But what would he believe? Did she want him to think she was there for a business meeting or a salacious activity? Really, she was escaping the thought of her husband involved in both at the same time. When she turned her key to open the hotel room door, she inhaled sharply at the view. Back in the summer of 2001, she scheduled the trip to the National Museum of American History for the fall and the war memorials for the spring. The teacher who taught the advanced placement sections didn't want to go, saying they had too much material to cover. Melanie occasionally got students in her class who dropped down from AP to regular history. They were almost always Black and Hispanic, and they usually seemed relieved to be back with their friends, as if they'd been holding their breath. She wondered if she got to teach AP, if she could make these students feel more welcome, get them to stay, make history relevant to them. What Melanie had not realized was that on their way to the museum that fall, they would pass so close to a piece of living history. The Pentagon was still a shocking sight, a mouth screaming open to reveal jagged teeth around a pit of rot. All area schools had been on lockdown the whole day of 9/11, but her students wouldn't have had much reason to pass this way to see this devastation up close. What was there to say in answer to the kids' comments? some with exclamations like, dang, and others with turned heads. Seeing what they saw, Melanie understood it was impossible to really know how this would shape their lives. 3 months later, she sat on the hotel bed and looked out at the construction, the tarps and cones. Once it was rebuilt, would the new part always not match the older, like the lower third of the Washington Monument? She imagined the path of the plane that must have gone right over the cemetery, then lush green as they'd seen on TV. The hills were now gray and brown, still filled with white crosses. She lay back on the bed, conscious of the plasticky sheen on the floral comforter, though she was not going to stroke it. That was the word Todd said the guys from the office had used. At a restaurant for a celebratory dinner after meeting a deadline, the guys badgered the one woman on their team to stroke Todd's crotch. Everyone had drunk too much, he said. He shouldn't have driven home and had called in sick the following morning as he guessed others had. When Melanie returned from school in the afternoon, having left quickly to get back to him, he had said, I have to tell you about something that happened last night, adding quickly, I didn't sleep with anyone or anything. The details were murky. Somehow the woman, Janine, had been taking some ribbing and was trying to act a good sport to play along. Todd recalled that it was Mark, who Melanie once met at a holiday party and thought should be the dictionary picture for the entry for smarmy. Mark said Janine should see if she could get Todd hard if he wasn't too drunk. Just stroke it a few times, Todd remembered him saying with something like a wink. Mark was on Janine's other side, and when Todd asked why him, Mark said something about the best angle, asking Janine, you're a righty, aren't you, sweetheart? Melanie could imagine the smirk on his face. Todd explained it was all under the table, so no one could see much other than Janine sidling up and crossing her arm over her body. That's what I'm talking about, said Mark. Others joined in with nods of approval, and Todd started to feel himself grow as Janine stroked him through his trousers. Chubby was his word. He lingered in a haze until Andrew across the table shouted, me next, and all the guys laughed. Then Todd snapped out of it and said something about it being not funny and to stop. He caught the eye of the waiter and asked for water and the check, putting the whole bill on his credit card, even though he wasn't the department manager. The night had to end. He would figure out the expense report later. Even if they thought him a killjoy, everyone was tired and drunk, and most had wives at home, wives who were unlikely to hear about the incident. Melanie had been horrified that Todd had gone along with the scheme, even if she was also glad he'd stopped it and was relieved he got the maitre d' to give Janine a cab. It was worth something that he told Melanie. But then he admitted that after he'd made himself breakfast while Melanie was at school, he'd felt like beating off and found himself thinking of Janine. Not that he'd ever cheat on Mel, he offered, intending to continue talking, but she was so grossed out, she told him to shut up. I have to get out of here, she said at least 3 times, rising from the couch and stomping through the front door. Within minutes, she'd left without a plan, but certain she couldn't sleep at home that night. She didn't want to call any friends and have to tell them what happened or to lie. On one of 2 computers at the public library, Melanie found this hotel on Expedia and drove straight to the building that looked out on that fall's wreckage. It sat across the highway from a large mall where people were shopping and eating. She imagined all those bodies moving under fluorescent lights or sitting in dark booths, and thought of the bodies that had sat or rolled around on the comforter beneath her, and the bodies buried in the hills to the left of her, and the bodies that never emerged from the building across from her. What of Janine's body, not 24 hours after being asked to service Todd's? Melanie's body was exhausted and admittedly hungry. Winter evenings faded early. She couldn't tell yet if the tarped area of damage would be flooded by work lights or go dark, haloed by dozens of tall lamps in the giant parking lot that surrounded the 4 intact walls of the huge building. She didn't want to wait to find out. She got up, closed the curtains, and grabbed her purse. She would buy herself dinner, and then she would become one of those people who sits in the cafe area of the Borders bookstore, reading something that helps them imagine being somewhere, someone else. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. That was so good. That was super good. All right. Last but not least, let me see, did Sabrina? No, she's still not here. All right. Last but not least, we've got Tanisha. Are you ready, hon? Let me see. Is she still here?
Hello.
There she
Yes.
is.
I'm sorry, y'all. The light is kind of dark and everything. So,
It's all
um,
good.
okay. Well, I am a self-published author. My name is Tanisha. Thank you, LP, for giving me this opportunity. And I wanted to read my introduction and my back cover of my book. So, my pain is my power because I endured so much pain as a child. It started from the ages 5 years old when I was taken away from my mother and separated from my brothers and sister. I continued to endure pain throughout my adulthood. I was like a caterpillar in a cocoon, waiting to hatch out of a shell into a butterfly. My inner voice was trapped until I found God, and He allowed me to speak out. I talked to you about how I was raped and not believed, and how the rape manipulation childhood not being believed by me not being scared by the system and some of my family members. I never
Tanisha,
thought I would become a mother at the age 18 months
can you
of
hear
2
me?
children. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking up really bad. It's like a bad connection. I didn't want to cut you off in the middle, but the connection is like bad. It's like chopping up and
Oh
like skewing your
no.
words.
Oh my God.
It's like every other
Oh,
sentence.
well, it may not be able to do it then. Well, let me say
Oh
well,
Hey, Tanisha, try turning your camera off. See if that
I'm wrapping
helps.
up.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me now? What about now? Can you hear me now?
Okay, there it is. Hopefully it'll
It's
hold. It
still
says,
chopping.
say something else.
Hello, can you hear me
Okay,
now?
okay, there you go. I hear
It
you.
is going.
I hope it holds. All right, go ahead and try again. Let's see.
Me too. Okay. Well, my book, My Pain is My Power, is about my life story. I am a survivor of rape, incest, childhood sexual abuse, trauma, and domestic violence. And I wrote my book from my heart. My life changed before it even began at the tender age of 5 years old. I was raped by a friend of the family and I wasn't believed. I went into a shell and I lost my inner voice. I was instantly taken with fear of what had happened to me. The damage done to me caused me to relearn how to walk. Was that not enough to lock the man up? I continued to experience pain from an early age before I could enjoy life. This book allows me the opportunity to talk to you about being taken away from my mother and being separated from my siblings. I endured so much pain, shame, fear, self-doubt, and a lot of confusion. Dreaming of being a little girl growing up playing with Barbie dolls and one day being a model, and how that didn't happen for me. I endured so much pain from my childhood to adulthood. I pray my book touch every person who is reading it and it touches you like it has touched me. I can now speak and share my story about all the pain that I've endured as a child into my adulthood. I could not have done any of this without God. I prayed and asked God to heal me, and He did just that. I lost my inner voice at the age of 5. I found my inner voice at the age of 32 years old. I endured so much pain for 27 years. God delivered me from my pain on September 4th, 2020. My pain is my power. I'm using my voice to help and empower so many women and children like myself. I pray that you all be well and blessed and that my book touched you. God uses His weakest people and molds us into becoming His strongest people. Even though fear was instilled in me as a child, I chose faith over fear. I survived and came out on the other side. Thank you, LP.
Thank you so much, Tanisha. Let me see. I'm gonna try and remove the pen. I was just hoping that the internet would hold on just long enough for her to finish what she was trying to say. All right, let me see if I can't remove the pen since I'm trying to be fancy. All right, there we go. Okay, well, that concludes the Literary Cipher, January 2022. Everybody give yourselves a round of applause. That was so amazing. Did everyone put their links in the chat? Jessica, thank you so much for reminding me of that. I don't think I said it in the beginning. So yeah, put all of your links, social media handles if you haven't already done so, links to your books. Please, everyone, follow them, buy their books and all that good stuff. Go and visit their web pages, because we're all about the support of people in the creative community here at the Literary Cipher, because that's what it's all about. I'm going to keep the meeting open for a little while for anyone who wants to stay on. Just a heads up, our next Cipher is February the 19th. We're back to our Cipher Tuesday instead of on a Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Another amazing lineup. I think we're going to actually have some men this time around. We've kind of had no dudes for the last, 4 or 5 months. So every time it's all women, we just kind of cut up. So we figured we let the boys play a little bit too this time around. Okay, so please come back and join us again next month for February. It's February 19th, 7 p.m. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you for everyone who read and shared their wonderful work and being here in community. This is what I love to do. This is what I love. And it was actually very therapeutic and healing. I don't know if I share with everybody, but I've been so under the weather the last couple of weeks. It's like 2022 just started off just already rough and on some other shit, for lack of a better word. It just really just didn't start off the way I wanted it to. So I always look forward to the Literary Cipher because it does make me feel better. And I hope it makes others feel better as well. So that is it, y'all. Much love, much love, much love. I'm going to keep the meeting
you.
open. Anybody needs to leave? See you next time. Much love to you. Peace
Thank
and
you so
blessings.
much.
And y'all please take care of yourselves and stay safe out there, because it is wild right now.